I think a South Asian playing an assassin is a new thing to start with, and the issues that she tackles is misogyny and sexual trafficking, for example, and she tackles them head on. And because her trauma is her fuel, which I think makes her really visceral, I think the connection that she'll have with the audience will also be really visceral. What drew me to the role of Disha are a number of things, but one in particular is that she's really autonomous. She dismantles justice and legality from within, and that really drew me to her. I relate to Disha and her journey because she's complex. She's not perfect. Her inner world, I relate to a lot. She has trauma. She has flaws. She has a relationship with alcohol, for example. I have trauma. I have flaws. I have a relationship with alcohol, and I think a lot of people do. Um, she's very relatable. There's one particular assassin that I really, really like, Agent 47 Hitman. I think it's brilliant. I love it. He's an emotionless killer that uses a stealth strategy and is really, really um, emotionless. And what makes Disha different from him, for instance, is that she's very relatable and everything she does has meaning. Her backstory is incredible, which I hope we get to talk about as well because it's so interesting. And what fueled her, to become an assassin. Um, it's all really human, relatable stuff. There's a lot of emotional weight there, and I think that the audience, as well as seeing her someone to look up to and to be inspired by, because she's a very powerful, strong woman, I feel like they'll be able to relate to her and hopefully it will help with their own problems, such as feeling silenced or patriarchy or sexism or any things that happen day to day these days. I think what sets her apart from the typical action heroine in particular is that she's not seen through the male gaze. I think that's vital for Venomous VIPER because she's not someone who's here to be looked at all. Yeah, and I relate to that. I'm like that in my own life. I'm not interested in what anyone thinks about me. I'm very focused and I have a dedication to hard work. And Disha, in a similar way, she's not here to be looked at. She's not here to please men. There was an instance in her history, in her past, where she was silenced by someone who said, "I'm a man, then stay in your place." And that, for me, that infuriates me because it's so typical. Personally in my own life, like that would make me it would make me fume because I'm against that. I think it's such a violation of humanity and it's just rude and it's sexist. And, I don't encourage that kind of behavior. There's a lot of men who want women to have a dead weight between their ears. I don't think that's a bad thing, and that's not the message that we're trying to give with Venomous VIPER. We're not saying that men want women, and therefore we have to rebel, and therefore, Disha has to prove a point. This assassin doesn't have a point to prove. She is not interested in um, sexualization or objectification. She's interested in punishing someone that the law won't punish. I prepared for her trauma depth and emotional detachment in a number of ways, actually. I worked very, very closely with the writer Arvind, who is, um, I love working with him. I work really closely with the director too. The three of us work really, really closely together. And therefore, I get an insight into what their vision is and what the fuel for their creative process is. I get to understand that. And that would be a foundation for me to start developing that emotional depth. And I also get recommendations for material to study. There's one book, for example, it's called Pimp by Asperg Slim, and it's so vulgar, but it gives a really, really true insight into prostitution and pimping, which is, something Disha would know about because that's the type of toxic red pill type she hunts. So understanding, her psychology, the way to understand her psychology is by knowing her enemies. And pimps, for example, are one of many types of enemies that she has. And also understanding, um, understanding toxic masculinity. For me to be able to really understand and dismantle it helps me to understand what's behind someone who's such a clean and efficient killer. She doesn't think, she doesn't flinch. I am my own life. I don't flinch. I'm very decided. But, this is fiction. I don't kill people. Someone that can go all the way and be so deadly is someone that, I need to be inspired by so many stories for that emotional depth. And, to sum up the answer to that question, the most important thing as an actor is working closely with the writer and the director. There's so many details. I'm actually going through a process of understanding how the imagination is used in the craft of acting through Stella Adler and repetition, etc. So there's always room for me to work on myself. It's a very physical thing. It's a very vocal thing. But the thing that's most useful for preparing for this very difficult part, this really strong part, this is very demanding. It's a very demanding role, and it's got so much emotional weight. The thing that I enjoy about it, and the thing that I like on a personal level too, because I like to be professional. Working closely with Arvind and Baz is the key for my preparation, and also, Venomous Viper is not just, it's a universe. It's gonna be huge, and we are in the process of developing that universe, developing Venomous Viper on a large scale. We're not interested in impressing like studios, for example. We want things that really resonate with people on a deep level, and I feel like Venomous Viper would do that. And the way to do that obviously is up to me, because I am the one who's going to be embodying her. So its success really depends on my work ethic. The main thing is working with Baz and Arvind. I think it's vital that Disha isn't seen through the male gaze, because a female spy seen through the male gaze, it's so overdone, and I wouldn't have chosen this role. I wouldn't have wanted to be the lead in this role if she was sexualized, and if it was about her looks as opposed to about her mind. Her power's in her mind, not her looks. I have a background of, modeling. I did it for years, and it was all about how you look and how you act and how you come across. It was so important. And now, as I've grown up, I'm not interested in, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm a serious actress, and I want to work. And I don't, I shouldn't say approve, because I'm not really anyone to judge, but I don't like um being seen through the male gaze. I'm not interested. It makes me really fiery.